Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. So today is Fed Day, and they did raise interest rates by 1/4%, or another way to say it is 25 basis points. I'm going to go through some headlines, share some thoughts on today news, and get yours as well. So let's jump right in. The Federal Reserve implements 1/4-point rate rise and signals potential pause. This is sort of the headlines going around everywhere. So they're raising now, and then next time, maybe they'll stop doing it. But I don't think they're going to cut, if you had to ask me. And that was sort of signaled also, too, when he literally said, I don't think we're going to cut. The markets were actually up on the day he started speaking, and then the markets went down. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. It was a crazy day. I've seen this happen before during the Fed talk, to where market's doing one thing, and then he starts talking and does the other. And it could go, it could go the other way, where market feels sad, and then he starts talking and everything going up. But today, he started talking and everything went down. When you check the sectors, like you can see everything is the red, led by energy to the downside, and then the financials, right, the banks. You can take a look at some of the actual quotes from Fed Powell, which we'll actually look at right now. This was on cutting rates. So this was the key line of the whole thing that we watched. Here he says, we on the committee have a view that inflation is going to come down, not so quickly, right? So they think it's coming down, but not so quickly. This is more. It will take some time. And in that world, if that forecast is broadly right, it would not be appropriate to cut rates, and we won't cut rates. So again, this literally saying we're not cutting, it's not appropriate, stop asking me. And that's when the market started going down. He took a lot of questions about the failing banks, about the recession, about jobs, all kind of things. The chair basically is always trying to keep people calm. That's essentially what it is. They also ask him, like, hey, what do you think about the markets going up, or what do you think about the markets going down? And like he's not really supposed to comment of like, oh, well, I'm like been watching Apple stock and I love Apple. Like, he's not going to say that kind of stuff. And so they always trying to ask him really particular things, and he tries his best to avoid it and say, hey, we're data dependent, this kind of stuff. Some of the big questions I thought were really interesting was, asked him what was going on in the meeting. So according to Powell, he also said the minutes will come out later, right? Then we can see exactly what everyone said. But that, I guess, members of the committee were on board with the raises. At least that's what he said. And then he said there wasn't really a discussion this time around on pausing, because there were a few articles, and they're just really, really pro Wall Street kind of articles where they want that easy and cheap money, saying that the Fed could possibly pause this time around. I've never said that, and I never thought that, and that didn't happen. So even Fed Chair Powell said it's not happening. The other thing too is what's going to happen next time, right? So all the headlines are going to be reading potential pause, as it's like potential pause, but I don't think it's going to be a cut. And I think that you could also phrase it as potential raise. You could certainly make the case. If I had to choose one or the other from the way Powell was speaking, probably more on the side of pause, but who knows? We'll see what the banks do. They asked him about actually the banking thing. You can see here, this is on JP Morgan and First Republic. And this is a quote from Powell. I think it's probably good policy that we don't want the largest banks doing big acquisitions, right? So it's good policy that banks aren't buying other banks, essentially. Then he went on to say that is the policy. But this is an exception. For a failing bank, I think it's actually a good outcome for the banking system. So again, he's saying overall we shouldn't have these big banks buying the smaller ones. But in this particular case of JP Morgan and First Republic, I think it's good. And he has to say that. He has to support, sort of the current policy, because it really, I mean, his main thing, he needs to be neutral. But when they do say, when the government does do something like this, then he has to be like, oh yeah, it's totally going to work, right? Do you see this sort of line that he's thin sort of tightrope that he's treading on, to where, you want to be neutral, but then also too, you don't want to panic people. Because like, for example, let's say he comes out and says, oh no, JP Morgan should definitely not have bought that thing. And just like, everyone's like freaking out, like, oh my God, what does Powell know that we don't know? You see what I'm saying? So when in doubt, he needs to keep status quo as much as possible. It's kind of a tricky job. I don't want that job, but really frank, I would not want the Fed chair job. This is asking about possible recession in the labor market. So there's an interesting quote here. Here he says, there are no promises in this, but it just seems to me that it's possible that we can continue to have a cooling in the labor market without the big increases in unemployment that have gone with many prior episodes, right? So he's saying, hey, we're going to have that, I guess the phrase would be soft landing, where Some people will lose their jobs, but not everybody. And you can say that. And then also we're talking about wage increases here. He says, wage increases have been moving down, and that's a good sign. And this is kind of an awkward part of the thing because, for many people out there, you feel like you're not getting paid enough. So it makes you feel strange when he's like, oh, okay, so I'm not getting a huge salary, and that's good. Like, from a regular person perspective, it doesn't sound so great. But overall, right, this is just the reality. So we're trying to control inflation. So yes, people are going to feel like that the real wages aren't so great, but you can't like just double everyone's salary, right? You need those things in balance. And one of the things that Powell was saying today, I thought was interesting. He was referring to, at least I heard it, and I want to hear you guys if you guys heard the same thing, but I thought I heard him say that he thought a wage increase of like, say, 3% a year is kind of ideal. And then put that together with, say, like, for example, inflation at 2%, so that gives you a general sense. But overall, though, you would actually kind of want them to be in balance, right? The other thing is, too, as well, which is, let's just keep reading. He says, more on, down to more sustainable levels, I think the case of avoiding recession is, in my view, more likely than not having a recession. So again, he's always trying to keep people calm. So that's sort of the headlines for the day. They raise rates, potential pause. This is the other big headline today, in my opinion. Russian government says Kremlin hit by Ukraine drones, blames Kyiv, and then Kyiv is denying. And of course, basically a couple drones hit the Kremlin. It's pretty crazy. You can see that there was a couple of small explosions there. This is in a no drone flying area. And sort of the rumor on the street is that this was an attempt to take out Putin, but it's probably more a symbolic thing than anything. And just think of it this way, guys. Imagine like if a couple of drones hit the White House, that would totally be news, right? So this is a thing. The other big news I thought today was Esther Lauder went down. Their sales forecast, I think they were saying like that it's going to go down by like 12%, something like that. And this is a big deal because you're sort of watching like, okay, what is retail money doing, things like that. And this is a quote from them. Here, this is the CEO over at Estee Lauder. As the shape of recovery for Asia travel retail comes into better focus, it is proving to be far more volatile than we expected and more gradual relative we experienced in other markets. And then I think they said the sales are going to be down like by 12%, and then the market was down by like the stock was down in the market like by 14, just kind of crazy. You guys know we talked about this, so you can see my prior video on this about the WJ strike. It affected the late night talk shows first, so they just shut down immediately. And this is something that is very real. You need good writers, right? You need writers to write the jokes. You need writers, and not just talk shows, but you need writers for TV shows, movies, stuff like that. And so they essentially want fair wages and also to some policy sort of decisions made of the studios not to use AI. So watch my prior video on that if you haven't seen it. This was an interesting one as well. We could read the headline. 8th graders history civics test scores hit record low. So not a good thing. And in fact, our scores have been depressed for a while. Essentially what it is, I read it, they give a couple different numbers, but you're looking at like 1/5 of students, can be around competency. And I say be around because I haven't seen the test for myself. But it just makes you feel like, okay, so that means 4/5 out of our 8th graders like can't do basic, civics and history. And I think it's a real problem, to be very frank. I don't know how else to say it. I'm assuming, and I think it's a fairly safe assumption that, whatever the test asks, it would be great if we could have, at least half of our students, getting there, but only like 1 out of 5 is not so great. And 4 out of 5, can't do it. Not good at all. And there was, I was reading through it, they were saying many students just leave answers blank and stuff like that. And we're in a situation right now in the U.S. to where, you have this culture war thing, which I think is such a hassle. And on top of that, you just have a movement of people in the U.S. that like are anti-education. It's a real problem. You guys know I was a professor for years. You may not know as well. I got my start with Bill Nye the Science Guy. I also worked a lot with kids in science camps, these kind of things. So I do believe in education very, very fully, right? And when you're talking about something like, say, history, like just basic history, who's the first president? What's the currency in the USA called, right? If a kid answered dollar, you're really in trouble. Or the state capitals, like these kind of things, right? Or what are the 3 branches of government? Like just basic stuff that kids need to know in the 8th grade. Or which countries are in World War II? Just basic stuff. And unfortunately, because I do YouTube all the time, I see it in comments or like, people either make stuff up or they just honestly don't know, like basic stuff. And it is a real problem. And unfortunately, I think it's getting worse, as literally what it shows here with test scores, but I see it in the culture as well. So, you guys know about TikTok. It's really popular among young people. So I'm of age where I grew up with, MTV and all the old people say, oh, MTV's going to rot your brain, that kind of thing. And I get it, right? I sound like the old fuddy-duddy and like TikTok's going to rot your brain. But honestly, guys, I do think TikTok is way more dumb than even MTV. And I like MTV, right? Yes, you could make the case that, Madonna and Michael Jackson and Duran Duran and these kind of things were mindless programming. But it's different. TikTok is really dumb. I don't know what to say. But I could just be an old fuddy-duddy, right? Maybe I just don't get the youth, and maybe, maybe the future is all about 60-second things, and all we need to know in the world is in 60 seconds, or whatever TikTok's doing. But yes, I sometimes I do look at the young, and I see that, test scores are down, and they can't do, basic tasks. And then I know that they're addicted to TikTok. I think it's a real problem. But that's, like I said, that's my opinion on that stuff. Moreover, let's just forget about TikTok. Let's just talk about like our bigger mainstream media. This is like Fox News. And this is sort of like whenever I show my wife this stuff, and she's Korean, if you don't know, it is so crazy. Like, and it's not just Fox News. I just want to demonstrate that, but like, this is how they run their shows. They make their hosts and hostess, however you want to say it, but the female anchor people or reporter people, like, do these kind of camera angles, and they're all showing their legs. That this is Fox. This is every day they do this stuff. It just shows you like how dumb of content we have. And you can go talk about The View as well. It's equally dumb content, right? I mean, equal opportunity when I call it that things are just dumb. It's just like, this is like the level of conversation in the USA is, and if you ever watch The View, it's just like people who don't know that much giving their opinions on things they don't know. That's all it is. It's frankly really, really ludicrous. And moreover, which I do, think that is our society is going in a downward trend. I saw this headline, restaurants, food companies pursue budget-minded consumers as inflation persists. And they got a picture of Jell-O on there, and they had some quotes about Burger King and stuff like that. But like, this is America. I don't know how to say it. You have kids that can't even know basic history. You have really, really popular shows where it's just gossip basically, and then you have essentially our food in the USA is not great. We're talking about like Burger King's going to get even more cheaper quality, and people are still eating Jell-O, which is like basically sugar water or whatever you'd use to make Jell-O. I haven't had Jell-O for years, to be really frank. And it's a real problem. And sort of what I want to stress with you guys, I know I'm being a little bit mean, but sometimes you gotta be, is that always consider what is going in your mind and what is going in your body, and the healthier stuff coming in to your mind and into your body, right? Healthier stuff coming out, and healthier stuff staying inside. And so I try my best on this channel to give you guys healthy content. I don't know how else to say it, be it healthy lifestyle, be it, keeping you informed, this kind of stuff. And also I say my opinion very, very strongly on this kind of stuff when I feel like, I guess a good way to say it is, we're in this sort of fast food culture, or TikTok culture, TikTok food. I guess that'd be my new phrase. I title my new book TikTok food. So you guys can see this is a live show. I'm just making up stuff, but yeah, it just seems like that's the way that we're going. And if you want to relate this back to the whole FTX thing, if you guys know, I covered that, is it was just showed that, all the big, finance YouTuber stuff, we're just pumping you dog coins and this kind of stuff, and NFTs and all this nonsense, and much of their content is dumb as well. People are just reading scripts, and if you follow my channel, I literally I don't script anything. I just literally just talk to you uncut, and I think it's very important to be able to have patience and to be able to like read something or listen to something without having to have crazy cuts all the time, and be able to calm your mind. But what's happening though is there's a lot of young people growing up that they're sort of overstimulated, right? That they're used to just playing video games in their hand all the time, and they need to have, the shiny object like all day, every day. And so that's why I notice the most popular channels and stuff like that. It's just something I noticed. Like, you have to do the craziest cuts possible, and like everything's like hyper music video sort of thing, like a Michael Bay kind of stuff. So if you don't know, Michael Bay is a director in Hollywood, and he likes to do explosions with white sparks. Explain it to people. But this is sort of the world that we live in. And it seems like, the most popular content on YouTube also too is like the most basic information, which is sad, because then it goes back to our schooling situation where, 4 out of 5 kids can't pass the civics and history test. So I've stated so many times on this channel, and I'll state it again over and over, I am completely fine with you having your own opinion. No problem. But when people just start making stuff up, which is a big problem we have in society, or just frankly getting things purposely wrong or accidentally wrong or just, wrong. Like, for example, today, the Fed raised interest rates. That's what happened. And you may get people out there like, oh no, they cut today. I'm just like I don't even know how to have the discussion with that when like people's facts are like wrong. I don't even know what to say. It's just makes you like think, oh my God, what can I do? So, and I guess the answer is, what can I do is I try to give you an education and I keep you informed. I guess that's what I try to do. And I guess the other thing is we also try to build a community where we have discussions on things. And we have a lot of smart people in the community. So on the positive side, we have a really less smart people community. And I love reading the comments every day of things like I hadn't even thought of. And that's what a community is. That's what having friends are, to like, hey, what's your opinion on Powell? Do you believe him? Do you not believe him? Right?